Obviously, I have trolls out here that are trying to basically create a whole different character out of me, like in my own reality and online. But basically, they're trying to circle back, just like they always have in the past, to take everything away from me and sift through it with the fine tooth comb. You know what I'm saying? And their idea is to put up the artificial, intelligent, created version of me, the artificial. The way I like to say it is the art of official, the art over the official. But that's what artificial intelligence is. It's a it's a way to get people to mistake their fragmentation for or fabrication of a sorts over the real and actual story like mine, and like the story like mine is. So oftentimes, even in my original story, people miss real facts of how my life actually has been and has always been. And so I'm just going through the notes here. One of the biggest things that people miss is that the trauma fractures the narrative in and of itself, and the story doesn't come out clean, linear, or calm. It comes out very much like I said, when you're first realizing these crimes and you're getting away from these people and you're like coming out of that long standing of a poisoning. You're telling your story from what you just experienced, what you experienced 20 years ago, 10 years ago, 5 years ago, and then when you're five, or like, you know what I mean? Like, when you're like, so it's like, it's coming out in a, this one big hodgepodge of like what's actually happened. And so the memories that you're going through, that you're trying to portray to people, come out in these pieces, in these little fragmented parts. So it's very hard to articulate. It's very hard to find the vocabulary to state, you know, in a linear fashion from the beginning to where you're at now in a concise fashion. So then there's emotions that bleed into the facts, and not to get people lost on the reality, because it collapses your time in a way that is like, if people are unable to see, for an example, that pain that can be manufactured and created in somebody's life by what other people are doing, right? And you go and confront these people on what they're doing, and they say, I didn't do that, or you're crazy, or you have a complex, or they're doing anything to deflect on the fact that they did what they did, and it created you pain. And it's to otherwise say that your pain isn't real. Your pain is a fabrication when it's not. It's like somebody that, I'm just going to bring it up in a worst case scenario here. It would be like my father my father doing what I witnessed him doing was rape, alongside of two others that did what he did do to his own daughter. And it's like him saying, after creating that pain, for an example, obviously, she didn't say, "You created pain in me. You pained me." And him saying, "Oh, I didn't do anything to hurt you." And yeah, you did. You absolutely did. So many audiences are conditioned to believe that truth must only sound orderly in order for it to have the truth and the narrative there, when in reality, these trauma stories or horror stories, for this example, it might sound chaotic to people because they just can't see it, that someone could actually do what they did. And I don't know why, for an example, that my sister doesn't say, at least online, what she would have said in the courtroom had she been able to. Because it literally brought the attorney into tears. Well, and not only that, but I have a whole lot of people that are suggesting that I'm just making it up. And it puts me in an awful position because I've been compartmentalizing through a very calculated poisoning all of my life. So though that pain, yes, it did happen. Yes, there was ways that messed up the nervous system of the targets in this very calculated threat that's been placed inside of my life. But the fact of the matter is that it happened. And that's legitimately all that would need to be said. So I've asked, can you compartmentalize just enough to make a 1-minute video? Send it to me. I'll upload it on my channel. It doesn't matter what happens from here on out because the Lord has us in the palm of his hand. You see? And so when these people play up in proxy warfare against a target, I legitimately would just want to go for a run or go for a walk or go for go rollerblade to better enhance my health, when they legitimately knew that, being in trust at the time, being that I wanted to trust my own friend and my own girlfriend not to be doing what they were doing, but they were. And it's to say that, or it's because of the things that I was open and honest about with my endeavors in life, like what I was planning to doing next, that would enhance for a greater plan to then take it away from me based on the fact that they flopped me to the ground in a cold and calculated poisoning. Not just the emotional levels of what they were doing, which was true as well, but it was worse than that. You couldn't separate the fact that it was emotional and physical pain, is basically what they're suggesting to, is like that I'm just putting out accusations when it's not. I legitimately have a story. It's hard to articulate. It's a whole lot of pain. A whole lot of fucking pain. And then so instead of these people asking exactly what happened, well, how did that happen? They're literally trying to flush the story out as to make it all accusations. Nothing that the eyes can see even can be true. And that is fucked up. People unconsciously ask things like, or put into perspective that because it doesn't sound neat, like why isn't this concise? Like how is it going from, you know, point where you're like say you're at point Z. Why are you explaining things like C, G, F, O, X, B? You know what I mean? And that's legitimately how the nervous system allows for the chaos of us of the many parts that are like you're coming out of a long-standing poisoning. You know what I'm saying? Like you're not going to be like, you know, you come out, there's no like confusing narrative through the actual reality of the duration that you're actually going through this stuff within. And so it's people that literally not only underestimate but troll you to play upon the confusion that does last. It's not like you come out of a long-standing poisoning in that fashion and just lickety split. You have all of your memories back. They're all concise. You don't even have to write them out. You can just speak them from the time you were 3 till 42. No, you can't. You're literally the only thing that you have is I've been in this covert warfare. Give me time to explain the story because it's led from the confusion that lasts for months on end. And that's why I needed to move differently. And I'm like, okay, well, I have to pivot. I have to start speaking out now. Even if I don't sound accurate at first, I have to learn how to get this story out straight. So I have to just start from somewhere and start from scratch and literally be okay with my nervous system just feeling like it's completely in fight mode, collapsing internally. Like that's not anxiety. That's legitimately these things that these people did to me to create that pain in me. And another thing that people miss is the duration, not only of the crime itself, but how long it actually takes when you discover that crime to get away from these people, which was about 8 months to a year. Just literally telling these people, get the fuck out of my life. You have no right doing this to me. And they still haven't actually left my life. It's not, it's like, it was the same if I was working at McDonald's as a kid or Lund's, or if I was working at anywhere else growing up. It was the same no matter where I worked. That these people in my life would play up by proxy to create so much pain in me that was psychologically damaging to me. And I'm not sure how it was all done. I'm not sure how they could all feel good about themselves and look at themselves in the mirror. That's not my job to decipher all of that fact. My job is to know that we're always scanning for danger, and the danger was very presently created to specifically force me into pain in a way that was to create a suicidality or to create so much pain that I believe personally these people thought as long as we do this, that, and the other, and we draw him into our stratosphere, like we're gonna invite him here, but then once he's here, we're gonna do this, that, and the other, and then because the girlfriend or the ex-girlfriend that I still cared about could sleep with a friend to sleep with another friend, or however it was just so fucked up and so hurtful that it's like, dude, just take me back home. You literally invited me here specifically to do this to me. Take me back home. And that was like just one scene of this type of criminal attribute inside of my life. So what people expect to hear in these kind of stories is that there's one villain, one crime, one turning point, and then it's done. If that was the case, sure, you could be done with it, move on, and the story, your story gets better. That's not the case. They've been playing a proxy inside of my life, a proxy warfare, meaning it was one proxy to another proxy to another proxy. Basically, a fake relationship to a fake relationship to a fake relationship until I could get outside and experience any kind of organic relationship, and then it'd just be attack that person, attack my life, so that I couldn't get out and establish in my mind that duration that of time, energy that it would have taken and that I would have needed to be drawn back from any of these people getting in my energy, because all they want to do is bring you a coffee. Here you go, buddy. Here you go. Drink up. No, man, you can drink it. Oh, I don't want that. Of course, it's poison. So the confusion becomes normal. In the long term harm that works differently, that confusion becomes normalized, that danger feels familiar to you, and your survival replaces the reflection, where it's like outsiders would say, well, why didn't you realize sooner? Why didn't they'll act like you can see these things sooner when you literally had nothing in your life to compare it to. Sure, maybe if the poison started when I was 22 or when I was like 15, but no, it started when I was 3 or 2, for all it, I don't fucking know. My dad literally would have something and put it in my mouth. And then I fought through trying to walk, literally to open up that door to see what I saw, and that's what triggered the 2 brothers of mine, I believe, to want to hurt me. Because they didn't want me to be anything better than what they were because they're older than me. So they just wanted to tear me down. And they knew I didn't want anything to do with what the fuck happened there. Without understanding that chronic stress that delays insight, it's not intelligence. They confuse explanation with excuse. When their story explores systems and patterns or networks, many readers react defensively. What they hear is that you're explaining how harm got compounded, but they interpret that I'm blaming everything else, where it's not like I'm just blaming everything else on the common cognitive error, but rather the error of it being that I was exploited, I was taken advantage of, I was hurt, and they utilized that hurt to just create more hurt and pain. So it's not an avoidance of responsibility, it's just the simple context alone of what took place in my life. Where many people couldn't separate the two, they couldn't think for themselves that you've never been taught to separate the emotion from the context versus just leaving it as the context, which is somewhat true to a point. But the fact of the matter is that you're not going to separate the fact that what these people did hurt me. It's not just you're mentally unwell, you don't know what you're talking about, that type of thing. Because it's legitimately what these people did was intentionous to hurt me. So people might miss the role of the isolation that's played inside of my life, where it's the powerful theme to where It's all of that aloneness and all of that pain being forced upon you before you're able to realize it, before you're aware of what's going around in your surroundings. And that was play by play. That was proxy completely. Some people think someone would have said something, someone would have come forward, someone would have, turned around from the evil and showed you what's happened. Well, when that has happened, in the recent, she ended up dead. I'll be right back. Alright, well, I hate what this life has done to me. Need a cigarette. I don't even want to explain what I'm going through right now. Like, I do and I don't. Because it's like, the people that should care, the police or the system, don't care. I've written thousands of emails. Nobody gives a fuck. I was being murdered. No one gives a fuck. Mic drop. Like, it's really hard to tell my story. It's really hard to not only articulate it but put it in order. And it's not like it would be hard for a normal mind. It's hard for my mind. It's hard for me. So I'm just gonna go off of my notes to the best of my ability here. I don't have much left to go. I just don't want to end up crying. I'm tired of crying online. I'm tired of like literally having multiple proofs of this crime. And I know that if there was any little tiny bit of ethical hacking, so the monster of hacking, of very not ethical hacking, that they would find the syndicate. And who knows, maybe they're just syndicates protecting syndicates. I don't fucking care. I deserve restitution money for what the fuck has happened to me in my life. But the isolation happens gradually. Trust gets eroded quietly. And the support that you think you have disappears before that danger is recognized. So, people who are listening, if you've never experienced this kind of prolonged isolation, it's ways that you cannot often even imagine how invisible that harm is, and for how long it is, for the duration that it is, and then when you do find out, it's literally the type of pain that will leave you in that duress. It will leave you in that place that's like, you're like trying to pull out words for it. And like words just aren't enough. In this, where my core belief on the matter is like, my mind is in constant fight mode through what I've been going through, constant survival mode in what I've been going through, and like legitimately day in and day out, week in, week out, month in, month out, throughout the whole fucking year, year in, year out, all throughout my life. And for me to reach that kind of discovery at 42 and a quarter years old, I'm sorry, but I was literally crying like a 5-year-old, puking as an adult, unable to grasp the words that I needed to suggest to anybody the monstrous part of the crime. So the focus on the people's belief structure instead of the impact that it creates is just a messed up mix of emotions, especially when it comes from these trolls that were trolling me to begin with. And so many people might get stuck on, do I believe this story, or do I think that the person's just crazy? But it's not the second. And you can believe my story. I believe if you looked at all of my content, especially laid out, you would be like, what in the fuck, dude? Like, why? Like, they'd be thinking, why didn't you go and fucking take care of these people? Type of thing. Like, find a mafia member or something. But the fact of the matter is, what would you do? What literally would you do? Stuck in this kind of place where there's no agency out here. They erode your agency on top of like the agency of police are just like more in cahoots with the color of law than they care about anything to deal with natural law and the nature of these crimes. So it's a loss of safety, it's a loss of your security. Your body is living in this constant alert mode, and the soul of you is trying to make meaning of it all to where you can literally feel like you can get back just a semblance of your life and just be I'll be alone. I don't care. I'll be I'll be alone and live off grid, and people don't have to do anything with me. I wouldn't care. I just want my own life back. I want my own identity back. So imagine it being like an MK Ultra victim, okay? I'm just putting this into perspective. They were tortured, they were lied to, they were given acid, and not only just a little bit of LSD, but a lot of LSD. Like literally sent home with it as if it's medicine. So all of a sudden their brains were completely fucking scrambled while they were performing crimes against these targets. Yeah. Get to your fucking printing press and you can't print money fast enough and get it to that person fast enough. And this was multiple people. And oftentimes these people died. So when people lived through it, yeah, you owe them fucking money. You owe them a lot of fucking money. You couldn't even print up enough money in this fucking world to pay me back for what's been done to me. What are you gonna do? Give me back my 44 years of my life with money? No. I don't get any of that back. So I don't care about the raw skeptics out here to engage without thinking of the impact and the toll that it's taken inside of my life. I don't care about the trolls neither, but I know that they're there, and I know that they're literally just trying to provoke and be provocateurs. That's basically all that they would do throughout my life when they were poisoning me. So it's no different me being on YouTube as it is me working for strong facilities or me working for a random person for cash or me working for ITI or me working at McDonald's. It wouldn't fucking matter is what I'm saying. What I do. It wouldn't matter if I'm working a gig app job or if I'm going to mow someone's lawn. They get in the way. It's called it has a name for it, but it's interfering with it's basically just interfering with your availability to get your own time and essence back in your favor on top of your finances and security. And if you can't do those things, then many people out here can't shift their own lens inside of their eyesight to literally see what you're going through. And the fact of the matter is that legit, like 12 and 16-year-olds understand this shit better than the adults do. All it takes is someone to have spiritual eyes enough to see it for what it is. But people often overlook the spiritual injury, the the soul level injury that these people create inside of your life. When you are hyper traumatized, you are in a hyper vigilant state, and they take advantage of that state in order to create more physical harm, financial loss, emotional abuse. I mean, you name it. So people are more comfortable about the single things, like just something happened that created a financial instability, or the emotional abuse and financial stability. You need to break down just these little parts, but not like where it like literally leaves you slain around every corner of your life. And these people are all soaked up in their pride with them being able to have so much power of assertion in your life. The story deals heavily on the spiritual warfare and this betrayal, where it's the false morality, the performative action that these people take within what's supposed to be in trusting and in faith and in a stay of that, at least of a moral compass. Not even like ignore faith, ignore God, ignore religion, ignore the facts of what the Bible talks about, right? The people that are performing this crime should still have a little semblance of a moral compass with the designs of their bodies to know what they're doing right from wrong. And so it's all of that fake made care used as a way to control its victim. So I don't know if many people understand that language, because they skip right past. They might be able to skip right past that, not understand it. But it's there because of God's original design. I don't care if people want to deny the God the Father in heaven. Go ahead and deny your God. But then that's who you're fighting through the people that you're channeling your proxy warfare and spiritual warfare upon, relationship abuse and all of that. Meant to completely control its target. And so I just don't think that many people might see those connections correlated with the duration of that crime, to be able to suggestively say that you're able to speak it from A to B to C to D to E to F to G, and speak it clearly and concisely in that fashion just right off the bat. You can't. No one can. It's like acting like a 5-year-old is going to be able to tell a person exactly what's going on when something horrific is going on in that kind of fashion of satanic ritual abuse. No, they're not. They absolutely are not, especially if they're a poisoned up victim. And so they might mistake the intensity for aggression, like, which is what's happening with the courts, obviously. They're like literally trying to make me the felon for... It's reversing the victim and offender. It's reversing to make me the aggressor for all of the aggression that these people had placed inside of my life by proxy. When they're just legitimately they're poisoning me to be anything else, and their affairs, and their this, that, and the other. All of their tactics and strategical methods that they took to like take over my life to then suggest that it's anything else other than what I'm saying it is. But how is someone going to be denying my life experiences when it's literally that long of a crime and that length of a crime? And I'm legit telling people the truth. You see what I'm saying? It leaves me in a very, very hard pressed way to just suggest that I don't have any little semblance of my own life at all. Thanks so much, world. Thanks so much, popos. Thanks so much, news media outlets. Thanks so much, identitytheft.gov. Thanks so much, FBI. Thanks so much. So, we like working as Freemasons, I guess. That's all we like. We like to portray that we're good, mighty men in suits and ties, robes, wear costumes as police officers, but not really care about anything that has to do with natural law. Okay. That's really weird. That's really strange. So the intensity comes from the survival, the reputation that's being completely diminished. It comes from these people playing up in this proxy warfare, and the onslaught of it being in repetition comes from people trying to be understood with something that's of an urgency, from a fear-based control of being completely erased. Because not only do they need to erase my credibility, they need and wanted to erase me before ever getting a chance to speak at all. Literally figuring out the crime in like to 12, 14 hours of like knowing full well, no, that crime. And they moved to cyanide, attack me to death. Second time, mind you. Second cyanide attack, or some kind of chemical, because there's nothing else that would have made my body in that way. Nothing. And me getting away from them physically, from then moving forward, is the only thing that's been able to keep me alive. So when the trolls ask, how much money have you made with your accusations? I'm alive, and it really doesn't matter, because when I die, I have a God in heaven that's amazing, that promises us everlasting life, where Freemasonry, cuckolding to the sex pedophilia, fucking sex traffickers, and these proxy warfare artists, I believe if they don't do any kind of repentance, they will be thrown into a lake of fire. There's that, but, all hostility aside, if they want to have a real conversation, I've invited them to have a real conversation and enjoy doing a podcast with me. Let's be podcasters, trolls. But they just don't have it within them. I take it out there calm and fair and equated with the credibility that I have. Just don't poison me. Don't let's play fair. Let's fight fair. You don't have to in a UFC fight, it's supposed to be a gentleman's sport, where you legitimately should allow the person to go home to their family and their kids, not hospitalize them in a way that might determine their life. But, that's literally the kinds of things that some of these fighters have to face when they step into the ring with a person. So, if people aren't able to see how survival rewires the creativity and how, or even their storyline, a quieter theme inside of my work is how my creative expression became a lifeline, because people miss that fact. My music, my faith, my storytelling, and it's not even all my music. It's I just like to write these lyrics because my goal was to be a drummer. I didn't even want to be a lyricist or a. I just liked writing about love and devotion. So I'm like, okay, well, if I can take all the bricks that have been thrown at me and make it into this mission, maybe I can make something out of the bricks that are being thrown at me to actually help others while helping myself to grind up for a real missionary move and a real charity, being that 50% or more inside of Minnesota alone have been recently discovered as fraudulent charities. Well, I knew that. And I think it's a whole lot more than that, to tell you the truth, but I knew that for a long time because a lot of these Freemasonries own these charities that they're just putting money into offshore accounts. They don't give a fuck about their cause. And oftentimes a lot of these causes aren't even being recognized as a crime itself because what, millions of dollars for trying to find a cure for cancer when there's so many cures for these diseases. So these are just hobbyists out here. They're trying to regulate the tools that we're literally trying to reverse engineer their engineering and manufacturing of these criminal attributes that are leaving people in hard pressed ways where people just don't understand. Like a cure for cancer is doing black seed oil with oregano oil. I don't know the ratio that needs to be taken, but for 30 days it'll kill the parasites within your body that create cancer, and bada bing, bada boom. Doctors won't be able to explain where the tumor went, where the cancer went. And so, and many doctors have proven this in the past. They ended up dead, suicided, but you know what I'm saying. They didn't commit suicide. They were legit murdered. They just come out in national television and say that they were suicidal. They just cured people of cancer and did a bunch of wonderful things for people in that way, as holistic doctors were doing. But now we have this allopathic system that only cares about the cartel and only cares about their drugs and only cares about what they can do to band-aid a symptom instead of actually curing people full on and full well, so they don't have to keep going back to the doctor. But doctors are like, well, we're not trying to make people healthy. It's not really about health care. It's about manipulating health care and manipulating the minds of the people to think that there's not cures when there in fact is cures. It's the same thing in the sciences when I've seen one heart on a video. Two hearts. One heart on one side had the petrol parts put in the heart, and the other heart had cannabis oil parts put into the heart. The one with cannabis, there was a little redness around it, and that redness, the inflammation completely went away. And you put this heart next to a normal heart, they look the exact same hearts. They looked exactly the same months later. You put a heart next to a regular heart of a normal person, and the person that has the congenital heart defect has the heart beating with the rubbery made petro parts, and the inflammation's there, and the inflammation grows, and it grows, and it grows, and it grows. It never goes away. And the reason is because our bodies aren't made for chemicals. None. Our bodies are made for natural stuff, not the stuff that they're throwing in the sky to get onto our plants either. It's the same type of idea that these Freemasonry cuckolding fucking motherfuckers have in mind to control the people's health so that their hearts can't clean, their blood can't clean their system because they're all full of heavy metals and toxicity and poisons. Our bodies weren't made for that. Our bodies were made for natural, wholesome healing. And if you can't get to those things based on how these people are legitimately trying to cuckold your reality with these spree masons and these traffickers and shit, and they're spraying our skies, they're pointing directed energy weapons at us and non-touch torture type of shit. And people can believe what they want. I believe we still have the right to our own opinion, but I'm not saying it's going to end well for me. I'm not saying it's going to end well for anybody that tries to speak out about real things. But the fact of the matter is that we should be protected. And especially when we're talking about our health, our wealth, our availabilities of healing from very unnatural made diseases, manufactured diseases. That's the way I'd look at it. That's what they're trying to do. They're trying to manufacture these diseases. So why should this work matter for you within what I'm building on here? From a crafty perspective, my story is strongest when people understand and acknowledge that without surrendering what I've lived in my lived experience, that it literally bleeds me away from having an opinion at all, A, but B, I have a lived experience. I was an eyewitness to things. So that's not an accusation. That's legitimately like the truth. And they're trying to refute they're trying to refute themselves against the truth with a whole bunch of lies. So it also focuses on the human cost, not providing everything obviously, but it focuses on the human cost of what costs go up when these attacks happen, because much like if I was just left alone to work, to have a normal relationship outside of proxy warfare, if my lover wasn't a proxy warfare artist and she actually helped me see through these things instead of being a part of proxy, well, I would have been able to work. And that would have been fine. I wouldn't have been sick made, you know? I wouldn't have been sick made, poisoned up left and right, not knowing what the fuck was going on. So I would have been fine at work. My money wouldn't have depleted. I wouldn't have had any kind of issues that I have where these people are legitimately trying to make me homeless in the middle of winter without socks. For crying out loud. Like, they literally don't want me to have anything. And the reason is because they don't want me to have a life. They don't want me living. They don't want me breathing. Does that make sense? I hope it makes sense that they're like out to murder me. Because they're trying to murder me. They've murdered me in my spirit. They've murdered me in my mind. They stole my fucking identity. Everything. So it also shows how someone's experience in reality is not just what they can conclude. You can have your right to your own opinion, but you can't conclude to the fact that my eyewitnessing what my father was growing up, for an example, is anything less than what my eyes saw. But that's exactly what they want to do. So this is where, like, as a heartwork warrior would come into play, because that's where you can actually shine. And it's not as an argument, but as being a witness. So if you personally witness and testify to the facts, then it can salvage the grounds that I have to move forward in my life. Meaning, I've mentioned things to my boss, I've mentioned things to other bosses, I've mentioned things to coworkers, I've mentioned things to other people. Like, I would like to be able to establish figuring out a way to, like, get in Pat's good graces again, because Pat witnessed me literally poisoned up. He even witnessed and smelled how there was something in my body. He literally brought me into the room and said, "There's something going on with you, and I don't think you know what it is. I don't think that you know what's going on. Like you went from being this way, on point, and and having more energy and this and that, to being this way and not being on point, and you have something else going on. There's something definitely in your system that you need to detoxify from." Okay, I thought at the time, but I also was a poisoned up victim unwittingly at the time. But now I totally get it, you see? So I'd like to be in his good graces, somehow get to that person, have him write up what his thoughts are, hopefully get it to the people that I was working for, where he was one of their clients of, and get those people, blue collared people, to like write up like what was happening. This is what he came in like, and this is how he left like. This is what I think happened, and I think with his what he's saying is true, or what I think he's saying is batshit crazy. You know what I mean? I think that they would say that what I'm saying is true. But the fact of the matter is if I had enough of that on top of what's to go on with, that legitimately these people wouldn't be able to play this reversing the victim and offender and then throwing me into a tailspin further inside of my life and have me going to some probation or having me going here, there, otherwhere. Like, I want my fucking life back. So anyway, on the grounding note, I just want to say that when I'm stepping into these ways, I'm confirming the criminal explanations here that are hidden behind systems that pretend to take out these ways that are just non-existent as far as helping people like me. I would like to create places inside of this world that can create actual avenues of helping people like me. What I mean by that, there's far too many people here talking and speaking out about how they're being targeted. Far too many people speaking out about how they're being followed and how the feds are stalking them and this and that and the other, and they're each one of these people is it has a different story. But I would like to create a platform and a place where people can actually grow from this experience. And I mean the whole world, G. I mean not only these victims, not only these people that are being abused left and right, with whatever they're being abused with. I'm meaning to literally make this matter to the abusers. And if it doesn't matter, and they don't want it to matter, and they want to like literally do everything in their power to be demon rats or whatever, acting like they can put anti-fascist Antifa out on the streets as if they're not fascist themselves, pulling people into civil fucking wars. Just in the recent Minneapolis, someone like used a car against targets, whatever. It's just the same plan, I believe, in place that they're trying to play about in any single direction that you can think of. But much like Andrew Tate and Tristan Tate, where they literally were teaching people and females how to monetize their content. Sure, maybe I might not agree with everything that people do, and maybe you don't have to neither. But what they're trying to do is suggest that the media is trying to suggest that $100,000 wasn't paid to the lady to suggest that to tell a bullshit story. But the payment has been found. The proof has been dug up, and it's been proven, and they won their case. And so, still, even after winning a case and having proof, I mean, this just goes to show how much truth doesn't matter to these people. But even after having proof of that $100,000 paid, or whatever the number was, I think it was $100,000 that was paid for this chick to lie. So once that was uncovered and there was nothing to go on, they were exonerated from the courts, and still the news media tells the story as if it happened. If you ask me, that's not news then. That's like legitimately playing games with people's lives. So anyway, I created this because I believe that there's a lot that people can be missing about my own personal story with what I've had to go through in my life. And if I could, I would be putting together my story from front to back. I'm just being led to believe that they're not allowing me to that. They're trying to still kill me. They're trying to circle back into my life and take everything up so they can do whatever they want, basically. It's just like the Bible said it. It's that when you turn to Christ, that he'll turn your whole house against you. And it's oftentimes not your whole house, and I don't think that it's supposed to be your whole household, but it's the fact that people just don't like it. And they don't like it so much so that they don't want to realize that you have talents and gifts that are given to you by God that can not only help you in your situation, but that you could be the blessing in their own lives. And they don't want to even utilize you as a tool for that fashion. They want to prop themselves up as these mighty men, when legitimately, what I'm told in discernment in my belly is that they're denying their own blessings. Meaning, the feeling that I get in my belly is exactly this. Say they have $100,000. They're denying me my own $100,000, or say my own million, right? That could literally make that $100,000 in their own wellness package 100 million. So they're willing to take the littlest piece for the kind of monstrous idea that they could even have inside of their own lives, as far as the blessings that could come from being forthright and honest and doing the right stuff. And instead of doing that and being that way, they're like, well, I'll just take this little piece over here because fuck you. That's basically it. So they want to fuck you so hardcore that you can't even have $1. You can't even have a pair of socks. You know what I'm saying? I hope that makes sense, but the fact of the matter is they're denying their own blessings. And they're denying not only their own blessings, but they're denying our blessings that we can bring and raise up in love somehow to create bigger missions to then establish for real live type of events that can take people from where we're at in life to a whole broader blessing for millions of people. And that is where I think it's at. Because if we can't take it there inside of this life in a natural course, in a natural way, this isn't living. You can go ahead and call what we're doing living. But I wouldn't even equate any even smallest fraction within a fraction of what we're doing out here life and living. This is not living. This is legitimately murder. social murder, education murder, spiritual murder, and just it's murdering everything that we could be. So until next time, this has gotten longer. I wasn't trying to go over an hour, but I wanted you guys to really get the picture of like what I believe could be missing from my story and how people just don't seem to understand this stuff. So I'm really trying my best to make it understood because it's not the easiest story to tell, and I don't think anyone could tell it better than I am doing right now, given my circumstances. So thanks for being here. Thanks for supporting me. I hope you subscribe and like and share this content with somebody that's close to you. Goodbye for now.